All right, hello, and welcome back to a Monday night edition here on the Chase Thomas podcast, where I am joined, as I am at this time every single week, my good friend, Evan Sowards. He is alive after emo night. He survived. Evan, good evening, sir. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
Not too bad. How was emo night?
Emo night was fun. It was a really classic Hollywood venue, which I think no matter what type of music you listen to, right? It's always cool to be in those Hollywood era moments and things like that. You see kind of like where all these special bands have played before. So it was at the Avalon. The DJs that put on emo night that just just played Coachella, they were doing their thing. It was really cool. I don't know. I think this might be a little bit out of your range, Jarrett. You're probably a little more hard, but do you ever listen to Pierce the Veil?
I do like Pierce the Veil, yeah.
Yeah, so Vic Fuentes from Pierce the Veil was like the surprise guest, came up and did the thing and played some music, sang some songs and hung out, and it's a blast.
I'm trying to think. I'm gonna pull up my Pierce the Veil
King for a Day.
King. Okay, yes, I was just making sure.
Don't worry, brother. I got you.
Yeah.
That other man there, Jarrett Bailey, of literally every website on the internet is where Jarrett Bailey is at, because if you go to his Twitter page, I promise you, you're just like, okay, this man's writing and podcasting and doing it for everybody, man.
Oh, got to stay busy, buddy, especially around this time of year. Like, NFL's going to own my soul for the next 9 months. It's going to be a fun time. A few player interviews coming up for a few different places, so keep an eye on that. Evan, I'll tease it. One of them's one of your 49ers, so that'll be fun.
Love that.
Yeah,
Jimmy Garoppolo.
It is not Jimmy Garoppolo. I can confirm that. It's not Jimmy Garoppolo.
Jarrett's going to write an exciting new piece on whether or not Debo is going to get extended.
Ooh. No. Or if the extension was never mind.
Yeah.
Well, Jarrett, it's exciting to have you back on this podcast because
I'm glad to be back.
Well, thank you. And it's our AFC North preview. We did the AFC East last week with Mark Schofield. And for the good folks who want to check back out on that, they can do so here on the podcast and just subscribe, check back from last Monday. But we continue on the AFC North, where I think this is another one of those divisions. When I was outlining and thinking about it for this show tonight, I think it could go a lot of different ways. I think there's only one team that I just don't think there is a path to them winning the AFC North this year, and we'll get to them last for a lot of reasons. But I want to start with the team that actually won the division this past year, went to the Super Bowl. Joe Burrow is just having a blast in training camp. He's doing sprints on his little scooter up and down with the players, just endearing himself not only to the players, but also just NFL Twitter as a whole. We all stand Joe Burrow in the Joe Burrow versus Justin Herbert debate, as this podcast has made very clear over the years. I want to start here, though. Evan, with that face, I got a thing for you. When it comes to the Cincinnati Bengals in 2023, I thought this was interesting. I went back and looked, and Burrow actually led the NFL in yards per attempt last year. And a lot of that was Jamar Chase and what they were able to do downfield, and that connection was strong. Jamar Chase is back, year 2 for him. But I'm curious if he does it again, and we just know with explosive plays and how important they are into the modern game, that if that is just a staple of Joe Burrow's game, just the yards per attempt and everything else, that if the downfield stuff's there, if Joe Mixon is the same dude, they don't miss CJ Uzomah all that much. Are they being slept on in the AFC, where it's just like, oh, they lost in the Super Bowl this past year, they're not getting back, they're going to take a step back? But it's like, if Joe Burrow is healthy and they still have that deep connection, they still have the strong run game, and Jonah Williams is awesome at left tackle, why are they not the favorites to repeat as champs? What do you think, Evan?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, as everyone knows other than Chase, Justin Herbert is the better quarterback between the two. And I will say, that's saying something, because Joe Burrow is a damn good quarterback. He played fantastic last year. There is a reason that they were in the Super Bowl. A lot of it had to do with him and his buddy. the receiver that they drafted as well. So what I would say is this: when you watch the Bengals offense last year, it was exciting seeing, Jamar Chase. It was exciting watching Joe Burrow be, just really explosive yards after the catch plays. But the one thing that really hurt them was their offensive line, right? That was the big thing. We don't really need to talk about much when it comes to the Bengals. What was the offensive line was the biggest thing they struggled with, right? And then in the offseason, they signed former New England Patriots offensive lineman Ted Karras. I don't know if that's going to be a huge difference maker by any means, but where that might be good or might not, it is not the same answer when they signed La'el Collins from the Dallas Cowboys. La'el Collins is a fantastic offensive lineman and absolutely the kind of like stability and foundation they need to give Joe Burrow some time to throw. When you take a team that was in the Super Bowl with Joe Burrow, effectively a rookie quarterback coming off an ACL injury his rookie year, they have offensive line issues. They bring in a very good offensive lineman. They bring in some more help. I don't see them having any issue having anyone compete. Maybe the Ravens for the AFC East championship again.
What do you think, Jarrett?
Yeah, no, you see what Joe Burrow did last year. You see what they were able to accomplish when he didn't have time, and then they just bought an offensive line to put in front of him. Like, if he's got time to throw, I think Joe Burrow could be a sleeper MVP candidate. The fact that they had Karras, they had Alex Cappa, they signed La'el Collins. Talked about CJ Uzomah. I think that they got a little bit of an upgrade with Hayden Hurst. I think that he's going to surprise some people. You remember, he was a first-round pick with Baltimore, the same year that they drafted Mark Andrews. Obviously, Mark Andrews, it was a little bit better. They decided to move forward with Andrews, traded Hurst to Atlanta. Hurst was good.
Very serviceable.
What?
Very serviceable. He did a good job in Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, they wouldn't have taken Kyle.
He was fine. I wouldn't say.
I don't know if it was a fit, is what I'll say.
Yeah.
I think that he fits more in a style that was in Baltimore where they rely more on the tight ends. Cincinnati relied a decent amount on CJ Uzomah. I think that having him go over to Cincinnati where he can, I think we'll see a little bit of the old Hayden Hurst from Baltimore in Cincinnati. So I'm excited to see that. And then defensively, I mean, Jesse Bates and Von Bell are still there. Mike Hilton, the good slot corner. We can make all the memes that we want about Eli Apple, but you look at their front seven as well. Like Logan Wilson had a very good year. Trey Hendrickson turned out to be one of the best signings of the offseason. So I mean, they're bringing back basically all of their pieces that help them get to a Super Bowl. I do think that the reason that people aren't talking about them as much is, they were kind of up and down for the majority of the year until, the final, 5 games of the year where they just kind of turned up the heat. They beat Kansas City. They beat Kansas City twice, which is impressive. They beat Tennessee in the playoff game after Joe Burrow got sacked 100 times. And Ryan Tannehill in the offense just more or less threw the game away. So I think that, it did take a little bit of luck. It was a nice little magic carpet ride for Cincinnati to get to the Super Bowl, but it's not as if they, when they showed up, they looked like they belonged there. So I think that they are being slept on a little bit. I like Buffalo better. I think the Buffalo is the best team in football. But it would not surprise me if we get, Buffalo Cincinnati in the AFC Championship game again, or Cincinnati in the AFC Championship game again against a team like Buffalo. So, but yeah, I think that Cincinnati wins the division. Like you said, there are, perhaps a Baltimore could surprise people with being healthy. Again, I mean, they were decimated last year. So it wouldn't necessarily surprise me if Baltimore puts everything together. But if I had to pick, I would say Cincinnati.
And we got to say, the one thing I do want to say that I forgot to mention, when you have a team that effectively got you to the Super Bowl with Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, the offense really was the lightning that got you to the Super Bowl. I love that you go and you take a safety and a cornerback in your draft. You know what I'm saying? Like, first two off the, you know what I'm saying? Like, I love that. I love that you're like, we know we're good here, so let's make sure we're good defensively. So
I agree. And I just think it's so fascinating because, like, the way people talk about Baltimore, and we'll get to them next, but like the Steelers finished second in this division last year. Like, all the hoopla about this division and what the Browns and the Ravens, like, the Steelers were still 9-7-1 last year, and this division was only separated by 2 games from first to fourth, which is pretty wild. Like, this is a very, very competitive, even division last year, and I think ultimately the thing about Cincinnati that it all is going to come down to Joe Burrow sacks. Like, he was second in the league in sacks last year, and if the offensive line were Jarrett, as you said, they spent a lot of money addressing the offensive line. They didn't get any A's. They didn't get the Taron Armstead types, but they got a lot of B's and a lot of C. Like, you just need to get the B's and C's in there to supplement the Jenna Williams of the world that you have invested in. And La'el Collins, let's hope, turns out to be a great signing for them and a good fit. But like, ultimately, you just can't be there. If you're in that zone, Joe Burrow's going to continue to get hurt. Like, he's just going to continue to get killed, and then that changes their entire future. And I mean, he's already gone through multiple serious injuries, and I mean, even at the end of that Rams game and what he was dealing with, it's like, man, Joe Burrow, that's not sustainable. What that was last year is not sustainable. And I think they have to run the ball better. They have to have another guy outside of Joe Mixon, just the way football's played. Like, you can't just rely on Joe Mixon to do everything. And we'll see if someone elevates on that in that area for them. But I think Cincinnati should be the favorite going into this season with the AFC North, if Joe Burrow is healthy, as the big thing. Next up, the Baltimore Ravens I have here. So I think it's interesting because J.K. Dobbins is cleared. And J.K. Dobbins, it looks like, is going to be a healthy, fingers crossed, contributor for Baltimore this upcoming season. I think that's huge. Jarrett, when you saw J.K. Dobbins was healthy, and you talk about Baltimore getting decimated by injuries last year, how much does a healthy J.K. Dobbins affect what the Ravens can be in 2022?
Yeah, I mean, this is an offense that's going to be similar to what it has been since Lamar took over as a starter. It's going to run through the run game and Mark Andrews in the pass game. Because let me name you the receivers for the Baltimore Ravens. It's Rashad Bateman, who's going to be their number one. After that, let's see, Devin Duvernay, James Proche, anybody? Tyron Wallace, who was another draft pick last year, Jalen Moore, Shamar Bridges. Like, who's Lamar going to throw to?
Yeah.
That's the big thing. So that's the only thing that keeps me a little bit questionable.
Mark Andrews.
Oh, outside of Mark Andrews is what I'm saying. Like, yes, Mark Andrews is fantastic. None of his receivers have proven anything. We can all talk about potential with Rashad Bateman, but potential is just a fancy way of saying hasn't accomplished anything yet.
Hold on. Tiff County legend, South Georgia, my guy, Rashad Bateman. Tiff County Blue Devils.
I'm a Big Ten guy. He tore it up in Minnesota and everything. I like Rashad Bateman, but he hasn't proven anything. And if we've seen anything with that offense, is that receivers don't have success. So, like, that's the only thing holding me back on Baltimore is the passing game. Now, look, their defense, I'm excited about their defense. As a Steelers fan, I'm not excited, but like as a football fan, like, you get Lattimore back, you sign Marcus Williams, Marcus Peters is coming back from injury, you draft Kyle Hamilton. For everybody like mocking Kyle Hamilton about a one-on-one drill in training camp, in his first NFL training camp at a position that he doesn't play, he plays safety. He's not a man-to-man corner. Shut up. It's going to be fine. So yeah, their defense is going to be fun to watch. Even with Wink Martindale going to the Giants, personnel wise, they're still very good. Offensive line wise, they draft Tyler Linderbaum. Like that just felt like a very Baltimore Ravens, very good draft, as they usually do. So with Lamar, kind of playing for an extension, unless they get one done before, we'll see what happens with that, by the way. But yeah, the only thing that I worry about with Baltimore is outside of Mark, like, God forbid something happened to Mark Andrews. Who in God's name is Lamar going to throw? I know I am labeled on Twitter as a guy who doesn't like Lamar Jackson, but he can't do it by himself. And he's gotten progressively better as a passer since he entered the league. But again, when he's throwing to Evan Sowards and you're not gonna get too far. So
you know very much so that I fit under the sneaky athletic lunch pail kind
Bill
of guy.
Belichick
Right? I'm there.
Yeah,
I'm
you
there
would have
every
been.
day.
Evan's a special teams guy. Like, he's
I'm
got
there.
he's gonna tear it up on special teams. He's getting the guys hyped. He's doing good punt coverage. I could see that. I could see being a good.
I'm gunning. I'm
you're
at
a
the
gunner.
end of the field real fast.
Yes.
I'm hitting someone in the
But you're
mouth.
also terrifying. Like, you're someone you don't want to see coming down the field. Like, you're someone I would hate to see on a kickoff return.
Because I'm screaming for no
Yes.
reason. Absolutely just screaming. Like, and it's not like a normal, like, I'm like screaming. I'm yodeling. I'm coming down at you yodeling. Like,
Yeah.
there's some, like, Yeah, I wouldn't.
Give me about 4 months, and I'll look like Gardner Minshew. That's what we'll go for.
There you go. And I also learned this week that Gardner is from Mississippi. I didn't realize he was a Mississippi guy.
He looks like the walking embodiment of Mississippi.
Does he? He gave me a California vibe. Like he always was a California vibe. He went to Washington State. Hold on, I am from the South. As a Southern man, I did not get a strong Southern vibe from Gardner Minshew.
Let me just say this. The reason why I'd say is because I
have a blind spot here for him. Apparently,
there's like a toughness that Minshew has that you just don't like. The Cali guy that you're probably thinking of, the surfer vibe, like you're not getting that type of toughness, right? Like that's like Jared Goff, right? Like. Can he take a hit? Sure, but he's not going to go out and chop a tree down, right? Gardner Minshew is chopping a tree down.
Gardner Minshew said that in preparation for going into a training camp battle last year with Trevor Lawrence, that he didn't take a dump for a week because number 2 isn't an option. If that isn't Southern,
is that a real quote?
That's a real quote. Yeah, that's real. That's very real.
Yeah, that's very real.
I respect it. As someone who did that at camp, Boy Scout camp, my first summer at Boy Scout camp. I kid you not, Camp Rainy Mountain. I was 13 years old. Did not want to go. Was not a big Boy Scout guy. And the latrine situation was pretty dire. Yeah, and I was like, I can make it to Saturday. So I just stopped eating by the middle of the week.
So you went like a full calendar week without any
I went from Sunday afternoon to Saturday morning. Yeah.
Wow.
That's
not something I was expecting to talk about tonight, but let's go ahead and move forward and journey on into the next topic.
Well, I did have another question for you, Evan. When you look at Baltimore's schedule, though, and you think about where things could go awry, or where you're like, okay, at this point we'll know, because I think Baltimore is so interesting because like I either see them as the boom or bust team where it's like they're either going to be last like last year, or I think they win this division. Like I don't see a middle of the road type year. And you look at it, and I was diving into some stuff where I'm like, part of it had to do with Lamar's running. Like he ran for 1,000 yards 2 years ago. They obviously had that great playoff game against Tennessee where he just lit up Tennessee on the road in that playoff game and shocked Nashville. But like the one we saw last year, I mean, he's throwing 40 times a game. He's not running nearly as much. And you're like, we talk about Lamar can't do it all himself, but I think the MVP, the best version of Baltimore, is Lamar doing it all by himself, and like everything running through Lamar, and Lamar running for 1,000 yards is actually kind of what you need to be the best team in the AFC, to push Josh Allen, to push Patrick Mahomes, is where like he's firing on all cylinders, and he's not throwing the ball 43 times and completing 60% of his passes that he was doing down the stretch.
My counter argument for that is that we've seen that with this style of offense before in multiple places, and it works for a couple years, maybe a year or two. We've seen it with Colin Kaepernick, saw it with guys like RG3, and then it
watch your mouth.
And it's not as we haven't seen an example of where it's sustainable long term. Is my argument for.
But it can get to a Super Bowl. Like Kaepernick got to Super Bowl. That's the whole thing. It's like I don't think it's sustainable anyway. Like I think Lamar is not going to.
I think that 49ers team was more talented than this Baltimore team, though. They were stacked all over the field.
Their defense significantly better. But so here's the thing that I wanted to talk about, and I think it's a good segue to it. When we talk about who is Lamar Jackson going to throw to, we have to remember who the offensive coordinator is, right? This is Greg Roman. And you mentioned Colin Kaepernick, right? This is the same offensive coordinator. What are you going to get? A really strong run game, lots of tight end passes. The receivers really aren't going to eat. Well, hey, guess what? They don't have the most exciting receiving core. Like, so it actually kind of works out in their favor. At the end of the day, that's just not what this, Ravens offense is going to be. I think what we're looking at is a team that is going to be very talented on defense, right? They just absolutely are. We're going to see Mark Andrew probably have one of the better tight end seasons that we've seen in a long time if he stays healthy, which is saying something too, because we've had some really good tight end seasons the last few years. But I'm hoping that we see a step forward from Lamar in passing, because I think fair or unfair, his passing, his talent as a quarterback, not runner, has been very criticized, right? You know, like I don't think that Lamar Jackson gets credit, whether it is deserved or not, for someone that won an MVP at the quarterback position. And so I hope to see him taking that kind of even, you know, whatever. Yeah, I mean, it seems crazy to say take a step forward when you threw as many touchdowns as Lamar Jackson has thrown. But, you know, to be maybe that pure passer that I think maybe Twitter wants to see him become, only because, one, he is a fantastic quarterback, he's a fantastic athlete, and he seems like a really great guy. So I'll be rooting for him in that aspect. But you're going to get a strong running game. You're going to get a lot of tight end work, and you're going to get a really good defense. And that's the Greg Roman recipe. So I don't need a receiver to go for, you know, 1,500 yards this season. It's just not the need.
Let me respond to what you just said real quick about the MVP thing. And somebody's going to clip this and just say how much I hate Lamar Jackson. It's not the case.
There is nothing Twitter likes more than just dunking on Jarrett Bailey.
That is true. That's very true. I will say this, though. I get that he won an MVP and he was fantastic that year. However, it was 3 years ago. Like, how long are we going to keep bringing up unanimous MVP? Like, they did that for John Gruden with a Super Bowl for God knows how long. He won the damn thing in 2003. People in 2015 say, John Gruden won a Super Bowl. He can do it. Like, guys, it was a long time ago.
But I think the difference is, though, is Lamar's continued to play at a high level. I don't think
did he though? Like last year, Sowards, outside of the Colts game, he threw 12 touchdowns to 13 interceptions. Like, that's not a high level.
Yeah.
Right. I would agree that's not a high level, but I'm saying, like, if you look at the last, you know, the 2 years following since then, like, when I watch Lamar play, I still see that talent there. Did he showcase it?
Yes. Like, it's very evident that he's a very talented football player.
And that's the difference. Gruden, for the Bucs, to your point, he won that Super Bowl and never was able to compete ever again. Right. And I think I can still see it in Lamar.
The thing with Lamar too is that, like, this progression has not been linear. It's been very, like, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Up and down. That's
mercurial.
Yeah. See, there we go. I knew Chase would come up with a fun word.
You and your books, you nerd.
So that is, I mean, look, can he take that step forward as a passer? Sure. Like, we've seen him, you know, take those steps. Like, from where he was as a rookie to where he is now, I mean, he is a better passer. Is he ever going to be the likes of Mahomes, Herbert, Allen, Burton? I don't think so. Does he necessarily have to be? No, but I do think that we need to see a little bit better, especially for Baltimore to have, you know,
I just think the clock's ticking. Like, he's got really, really lucky with the injury stuff. Like, I don't want to predict injuries and I don't wish injuries, but it's just his style. We've just seen it. Like, part of what makes him great is he has to put himself in harm's way a lot. He just has to. He has to be a runner. He has to use that kind of stuff because he bends defenses. He is such a pain in the butt when he is running the football, and he is that dual threat guy. But eventually that comes at a cost. Eventually, with his size and his frame, like, this will not last forever.
Especially when it seemed like Cam Newton got torn up a lot, and Cam Newton a lot bigger than Lamar Jackson is.
Yes.
Now, Lamar Jackson's better than Cam Newton. Don't get me, that's a different debate for a different time. But the fact that
he's got more of a RG3 frame.
Like, prime Cam was a smaller guy. But here's the one thing I want to say. To your point, that is very accurate, that he had a pretty mediocre season overall. I'm biased, but Greg Roman sucks. Like, Greg Roman sucks.
I feel like this is an annual segment whenever
but Greg Roman sucks. Like, let me hear right here. Mm-hmm. Greg Roman sucks. And so, but my point with that is, like, every time Greg Roman, and now we've had very strong case studies, right? Mm-hmm. He gets an athletic mobile quarterback. He focuses heavily on the run game. The passing, like, he'll have, like, you know, Cap was a very exciting passer at times, and then it just kind of tailed off because they just didn't use it correctly. And here we are again, Lamar. I mean, the first thing that I said when Greg Roman was the offensive coordinator for Lamar Jackson was get rid of Greg Roman as fast as possible. He will ruin Lamar Jackson. And I think it's the same thing. I mean, if you, like, parallel the Cap years at his peak and then the downturn with Lamar, like, I mean, if you're looking for common denominators, right, it's Greg Roman. So I don't know if Lamar will ever get back to the MVP season that he had, but I know for a fact it won't happen if Greg Roman stays.
Do you think a few weeks ago, the ESPN collective exec poll came out and they didn't put him in the top 10? I have him at 11. Would you put him in the top 10?
I will say this, that the problem with that question is that 8 to 12 is really hard.
You could genuinely put those in just about any order and you wouldn't hear too much argument.
And that's the thing. Like, if you're looking at the NFL top 10, let's go ahead. Let's pull it up right now. And I think we'll get the article that was specifically, I think this was it. Right. But my big issue is like, one, Matt Stafford is such a weird person in that, like, you want to put him in the top 10, but were you putting him in the top 10 when he was in Detroit?
I was putting him in like the top 12.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. But now he's like top 5 because of Sean McVay and that offense and what he did and winning a Super Bowl. And so, like, there's a lot of things. And on the other side of the spectrum, like the inverse of that, Russell Wilson, normally you'd be like top 3, right? But like, there's a lot of unknown now, and he played kind of pretty bad and he was injured and like the Seahawks are terrible. So like for me, when you look at the top 10, there's so many like weird little variables like that like it gets kind of difficult. Also, Tom Brady's not is he going to be a top 10 QB this year?
I think he'll be a top 10. Absolutely.
At 45 years old?
Not. I think he'd be top. I think he's top 5
this year.
There's so many weapons.
Let me say this. Yeah. I'm not saying definitively that Tom Brady will not be a top 10, but I'm saying those are the types of things when you're making a top 10 list for 2022 where I just don't think it's as definitive, right?
Yeah.
You got Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert. Look, Joey Burrow. Is Burrow?
Yes, he's a top 10.
Yeah, healthy Burrow's in the top 10. Yeah.
Right. Okay. But so Mahomes, Rodgers,
Allen.
Herbert, Allen, Burrow. Who else do we want to go? Like,
I would throw Brady, Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray.
Ooh, I don't know if I throw Dak there. I don't think
I would put Dak. I would put Dak at 10. I have him at 10.
Deshaun Watson, like, are we going to even like put him in a top 10?
I'm not
like
breathing that
scumbag.
Yeah,
right. That's my point. I think personally, I do think
Lamar is in the top 10, by the way. I think yeah.
I want to put Lamar above Dak, but I don't know that many people would agree with me.
I would put Lamar above Dak.
I would not.
I think only one of those two quarterbacks will ever have an MVP in the NFL.
But that's my point, though, is that like Dak has a very
Can I counter that real quick, Sowards? Can I counter that? Drew Brees never won an MVP, and I promise he will always be better. Russell Wilson's never got an MVP vote, and he will.
That's true.
See, this is where MVP conversation pisses me off. Damn it.
No, but also like, it's also there are seasons that you can point to Drew Brees and go, he should have won it. Mm-hmm. Has Dak had a season where you're like, oh, he should have won it?
The thing with Dak though is that he still got still a very young career. Like he still got a long way to go. And it's always.
But do you ever see a scenario where he's the number one, number 2 best quarterback in football that year, where he has a season where he is number 1, number 2, and the Cowboys are number 1 in the NFC?
No, I don't think so. But I mean, what he did last year, 37 touchdowns, 10 picks.
I like Dak.
I like Dak a lot.
I just think ceiling Dak versus ceiling Lamar, it's still Lamar.
I think
I think from a passing perspective, Dak eclipses Lamar in terms of.
But you can't do that with just Lamar. That's not. You can't do that.
Why not? Why can't I?
Because Lamar is a full player. Like you have to take into account everything that he does on the football field, right?
Well,
like you have.
Dak's mobile too. He makes plays with his feet.
Not like that.
Not like Lamar.
Here's the thing. I don't need my quarterback to run for 1,200 yards. I want him to throw the damn ball like Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen.
Yes, of course.
I don't think either are wrong, but if you had to just pick one to go get you, I that would be a fun exercise there around the league. Is just polling, like anonymous polling of like if you just have one game with just the Bills.
I would bet you my life if you said, all right, peak any quarterback, any game. If you could have peak Patrick Mahomes or peak Lamar Jackson, 31 out of 32.
Oh yeah, Mahomes for sure. But we're saying Dak or Lamar.
Here's a good example to your guys' point. I do think there's plenty of head coaches that are going to be like, I would rather my quarterback throw.
Right.
Sure. Right. Kyle Shanahan, what do you think he says? Because I guarantee you Kyle Shanahan would rather have Lamar Jackson than Kirk Cousins. And he loves Kirk Cousins. Because Kyle Shanahan is the guy that's going like Deebo Samuel. What can I do with this talent? So Jarrett, you're not wrong. I would like someone that could throw the ball. It's a very fair, safe thing to say. But there are head coaches in the world that can use Lamar much better than they could use Dak Prescott. I believe that wholeheartedly. Yeah. I guarantee you, like, if Dak Prescott and if you like put either Dak or Lamar into Kyle Shanahan's system,
that's what I feel like system fits are definitely a thing. Like, would I be more afraid of the 49ers if they had Lamar Jackson or Dak Prescott? Lamar Jackson, because Kyle Shanahan would use Lamar Jackson in a variety of ways.
They would both be terrifying, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
We'll see, though.
Well, who might not be terrifying, at least right away, is Kenny Pickett in Pittsburgh. The guy who might be terrifying is George Pickens, who I've watched a lot of in my SEC watching.
That's the only thing keeping me going right now.
George Pickens, man. Well, yeah, the Trubisky stuff out of camp, not the best. Seems like. What do you think? Does Pickett start week 1 at this point? Does it feel like? So you don't think there's any chance he starts week 1?
I think that's not the right question.
I would be very surprised if he starts.
Here's the right question. Jarrett, you poor bastard. What has it been like watching this QB competition as a whole?
It has been. I would.
You know what? I don't want to interrupt you, but my God, I just remembered I need to. Do you remember what you were saying about Mitch Trubisky on this podcast, sir? Do you still think those things?
Look, it is. Let's get to the end. Let's get through at least 1 or 2 preseason games. Let me see what he looks like. Like, I'm going to the game this week. Like, I'll be there. I'll be able to see it in person, see what he's going to look like. Let's get through that. We'll revisit it. But yes, there was a stretch in a drill, in a red zone drill, where he went 0 for 16. That's impressive. Like that
shouldn't even be possible. I can't even palm a regulation football. I should be able to like 2-arm it.
I feel like I can. Are you saying palm or regular size football? I think I should.
So I'm not gonna lie. I have the exact same hand size as Kyler Murray, and I cannot throw. I don't know.
I've got baby hands too. Yeah, I've got very small ones. But back to the Trubisky thing, I guess.
Yeah.
Now a lot of people threw in the caveat that Deontay Johnson wasn't out there for those 2 days. Chase Claypool wasn't really doing much of anything. But 0 for 16, man, and in training camp, like that is saying something. Now I'm not gonna get blown away and like make a decision on how I think the Steelers are gonna do through camp, because how many times have we seen training camp darlings turn out to be horrible, and then training camp quote unquote big stories turn out to be like, remember last year when we thought Jamar Chase couldn't catch? The Sowards and I talked about this. He couldn't see the stripes without the white stripes, and then he turned out to be fine. So let's see some preseason games. Let's see what they look like against other teams. Let's see how it goes. No. In terms of Kenny Pickett, I would be incredibly shocked if he starts week 1. Now, in terms of like the leash that Mitch Trubisky will have, I think that is something that we could pay attention to. Like, let me pull up the Steelers schedule actually right now, just so I can maybe put a time stamp on when we could see him. So let's say, now I do think that the Steelers start off relatively good because their schedule isn't that bad. Now they start off against Cincinnati, they're losing that game. They will start off 0-1. Home opener though, against New England, I think that they beat New England.
They're going to lose that game.
They're not going to lose.
They're absolutely going to lose.
They're absolutely not going to lose.
100%. They're not beating. There's no Bill Belichick.
Name 5 players on the Patriots roster.
I don't need to name Bill Belichick. They won with him throwing 1 pass last year. I'm serious. It's Bill Belichick. Do you really think
he just went 7-9 2 years ago, Sowards? That means nothing to me.
He went 7-9 when he literally uphauled his entire team. They then went on to spend the most in free agency.
Absolutely nobody. They overpaid in free agency is what they did.
My point is this. Do you confidently believe that Bill Belichick will lose to Mitch Trubisky or Kenny Pickett?
Yes. Because I don't believe in Mac Jones and I don't believe in the Patriots offense. Especially if they're like,
can we do like a White Claw shotgun bet on that?
Defensively, outside of Matt Judon, the Patriots defense isn't even good anymore. Look at their personnel. Look at this is what Bill Belichick has done best for his career. They're not good on paper. Not to mention they don't have an offensive coordinator right now. Reports out of New England today saying that Mac Jones looks rough. Like, why would I be afraid of, like, if it was Tom Brady rolling in there with Bill Belichick, yes, because they had the Steelers number. Mac Jones, I'm not worried about Mac Jones. Absolutely. I think the Steelers win that home opener, especially because their defense is very good.
This is what happened when you have a Steelers team that is consistently overplayed their talent level. They have won games. They've had an inflated record when they were much worse of a team than the record indicated.
They were not a 9-7-1 team last year.
Right. And this is what happens when that is the outcome, because there is nothing the Steelers can do to beat mid to high level NFL teams this year.
Sir, dude, the only thing on the Steelers roster that is remotely a question mark right now is the quarterback position.
I don't know. I might say if Najee Harris averages more than 3 yards a carry.
The offensive line did get better. They brought in James Daniels from Chicago, Mason Cole from Minnesota. Like a bunch of reports saying that their offensive line looks much better.
I will give you this. Bad quarterbacks can win NFL games with a strong team.
Sure.
Mid-level quarterbacks have won Super Bowls with a strong team.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about any of those people. We are talking about Mitch Trubisky. He is so bad. And Kenny Pickett is not some unanimous first-round quarterback. He's a guy that might need 3 years just.
You're not going to hear me defend Kenny Pickett. I'm not going to.
But I'm only using the Kenny Pickett just to put it out.
Hold on, Kenny Pickett's playing like week 3. Evan, this man is playing. This man's playing.
Can I keep going through the schedule, please?
CJ Beathard played. It does not mean that he should have. My point is that
I don't know. I think Kenny Pickett's gonna be fine.
Mitch Trubisky loses football games in spite of a good team. Go ask the Bears.
So they're going to beat New England week 2, and then they will go to Cleveland week 3 with Jacoby Brissett, a place that the Steelers have notoriously won. I think they beat Cleveland the first time. So 2-1. They play the Jets week 4. Mike Tomlin is notoriously bad against the Jets. I think the Jets beat them week 4. Then they go to Buffalo. They're going to lose that. And then they play Tampa Bay. I think they lose that. So they'll be 2-4 after week 6. This is when I think we could see this little window right here. They go to Miami, to Philadelphia. I think minimum they win one of those. They've been good against Miami. I'm not worried about Miami. I think Philadelphia is overrated too. It wouldn't shock me if they won both of them. Probably not good enough at quarterback play to win both of them though. So if they're like 3-5 going into a week 9 bye, coming out of the bye at home against New Orleans, I think that's when we could see Kenny Pickett. I think the earliest we'll see Kenny Pickett is week 10. If they're 3-5 coming out.
But see, like that's if you're still counting on Trubisky to win some important games there. And I don't.
Can I pull up? Look, wins are not a quarterback stat. I get that. Can I pull up Mitch Trubisky's record and show you what it is? Because he's got a top 5 win-loss record since he entered the league.
That's fine.
You could, dog, if you want to rest on those,
everybody,
numbers, you do it.
Because your argument is that Mitch Trubisky constantly loses game when that is factually not true.
No. What we're saying is this that's Mitch Trubisky a couple years ago. We have not seen Mitch Trubisky play quarterback. There's a reason that the Chicago Bears moved on and that whole staff is out the building. And it's because Mitch Trubisky was not the guy. Can we make the argument, though, that
maybe Mitch Trubisky was a victim to Matt Nagy?
I don't know.
And that a rehab year with Brian Dable and Sean McDermott and Josh Allen in Buffalo could help him get a little bit better. Or at least be what he was, like a little bit less of what he was in 2018.
The best case scenario is like a Sam Bradford type situation for him.
I'll take a Sam Bradford type situation this year.
Yeah.
More athletic space. I'll take Sam Bradford with like the Rams.
What universe are you living in?
Sam Bradford with like the Rams, a little bit more than that. The Steelers can win games with that.
We were talking about Mitch Trubisky like this before camp, and I looked at you guys all, and I was like, no, he's terrible. And you're like, he's athletic. And then he threw 0 for 16. And I go, I told you. And you guys go, no, he sucks.
It's camp sports. Let me see what he does in preseason, and then we'll talk. I'm not going to, like I said, I'm not going to write him off.
And by the way, Steelers fans are going to go absolutely nuts.
Oh, yeah. No, here's the thing.
Mitch Trubisky throws 2
interceptions. And that's why, for the large part, Steelers fans are the most annoying on the planet, because everybody has such, I don't know if you're going to have to bleep this out. All these Steeler fans that are also Pitt fans have such a boner for Kenny Pickett. And
first off, I think boner is perfectly fine to say.
Okay.
Like, you could say boner as many times as needed. Like boner is really, it's kind of a fun word. I mean, if I'm being honest,
it was a character really on Growing Pains.
It's really playful, right? They're going to have, So back to your point about boners.
As soon as Mitch Trubisky throws one poor pass, all these Pitt fans that are also Steeler fans are in the crowd and they're like, put in Pickett! As they walk around in their jean shorts, their dusty Cordell Stewart jerseys, and their
that he
Air
actually
Monarchs.
played at Pitt. I even more now say that. Yeah, you're right.
Here's the thing. The Steelers are one of the best run organizations in sports. There is no small part of me that absolutely believes that if Kenny Pickett didn't play at Pitt, they wouldn't have drafted him. I wholeheartedly believe that. And it is what it is. I'll get off my soapbox about Kenny Pickett. But yes.
I will say this, by the way, does it feel like God or whatever like entity in the earth, like NFL gods, the universe that be, it's just like you keep hearing like Mike Tomlin always has a winning record and everyone's just like, oh yeah, we'll see this time. It's like
I still think they've finished with a winning record, by the way.
It's like someone has it out for Mike Tomlin. They're like, oh yeah, like I feel bad for him. I really do. I genuinely feel bad for him.
Let me just say this. This team that they currently have is better than the team they had in 2019 when Ben was gone for the year and they still finished 500. I wholeheartedly believe, and look, the rest of their schedule, like the front half of their schedule is the toughest part. Second half of their schedule, there's Atlanta, Carolina. Like, I'm not so – they'll beat New Orleans. I'm not worried about New Orleans either. Like, they can go 9-8. I believe that they can do that.
Okay. I like it. You got to run, Jarrett. So let's put it.
Honestly, here, if we can do Browns real quick. I'm not. Yeah, go for it.
Okay. We'll end on the Cleveland Browns, who I think we could all agree that this is just. I don't see how this is not just a lost year for them. I don't see how they get out of this. How they win a bunch of like Jacoby Brissett might be fine, but even without Jacoby Brissett, there's a lot of holes in this roster. I don't feel great about both sides of the ball here. I think it's weird that Kareem Hunt asked for a trade and was that request was denied this week.
Yeah, everything's just going weird right now.
Yes, obviously the vibes are quite bad there, and free my guy Josh Dobbs. Get him out of there.
Friend of the pod.
Yes. The only thing that's positive.
Guy.
Yeah, exactly. And Josh Dobbs, great dude.
I'm sorry.
No, we love Josh Dobbs. Really weird quarterback room though. Brissett, Dobbs, Josh Rosen, name redacted.
Oh yeah, they did add Rosen, didn't they?
They did. He is well on his way.
This is the part where Sowards tells me that Rosen would be better than Trubisky.
49ers legend.
But I look at this team and I'm just like, I just don't see it. I don't see how they don't finish last in this division this year. What do you think, Evan?
I mean, what I will say is the one thing I think if we're going to talk about the Browns that I'm most curious about is it does seem after this terrible ruling for the game suspension of 6 games, it does seem like the NFL and Roger Goodell or whoever the powers may be are gunning for a much heavier sentence. I don't know if
it seems like we are not going to see him this year. I don't think he plays.
I don't think we see him this year either. And I will say, if they come down and they say, nah, no way, he's out for the season, period, I do see them cutting Josh Rosen and either trading for Jimmy Garoppolo or trying to sign him once he gets cut.
Interesting.
I don't see how you can't. If you know that he's going to be gone, Jimmy Garoppolo is a significant upgrade over Brissett. I do not. Brissett
or hear me out. What if you wait to see how the Carolina quarterback situation unfolds, and whoever loses the Darnold Baker quarterback battle,
but
then you go
and bring Baker back.
That's the thing, though, right? You can't get rid of Darnold's contract. So
yeah.
But either way, so to the Browns,
who could forget though the Darnold and Jimmy Haslam or Darnold? I think it was Jimmy Haslam watching Darnold USC tape with his family in the rain. Do you remember that picture of them together? And it was like, oh, done deal. Darnold is going to the Browns, number 1 overall, because he was like, Jimmy Haslam was like sitting in the crowd with his parents watching Sam Darnold, and it didn't happen. So maybe that's how this ends. Darnold back. But anyway, continue, Evan.
Yeah, I mean, I overall think that the Browns have a strong division this year outside of the Steelers, and they're going to not only have to compete in a strong division, they're also going to have to compete in their own little world because they are terrible human beings in that front office doing what they did with Deshaun Watson. And I believe karma is real in some way, shape, or form. And they tried to get away with signing and giving a fully guaranteed contract to a known predator. And I just don't see how, like, to your point with like all the things that are happening with like, you know, the running back situation, requesting trades, yada, yada. Like, I just feel like it's going to be like a continuous, like, bubbling up. Like, it's just going to get worse. Like, the vibes are bad. Let's just say that the vibes are bad. And I think they're going to not only be having trouble with other teams, they're going to have trouble in their own organization.
Jarrett, what do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure we're all tired of talking about Deshaun Watson. I'm tired of talking about Deshaun Watson. But yeah, no, this is it's an annoying situation, isn't it? And it's a situation that pisses a lot of people off, as it should. Like 6 games is a slap on the wrist for a guy who is accused of doing what he's doing, or accused of, doing what he did. I do think that there will be the fact that the league appealed. Roger Goodell appoints the person who oversees the appeal. Like, there's going to be a harsher.
The indefinite
penalty.
feels like it's coming. I think it's
The
going to go
indefinite
indefinite.
does feel like it could be coming, and then it's going to be counteracted where it will be the NFLPA and Deshaun Watson probably taking this to court, and we'll have to see what happens with the final ruling of that to see if it will be an indefinite suspension.
Mm-hmm.
So, now to Evan's point about Garoppolo. Cap wise, it makes sense. Overall money, though, to what the Browns would be paying.
They'll pay less. They're not. Jimmy's not going to any team for 25.
Oh no, I get that. It won't be the 26 million or whatever, but it will still be probably around, what do you think, like the 14 to 16 million dollar range on top of the fact,
10 to 16. It could be 10. I do.
On top of their Deshaun Watson's like $45 million signing bonus is fully guaranteed this year, so he's getting that. That would be almost $70 million or whatever tied up into 2 quarterbacks for the year. So they would be hitting that in their own personal checkbook, even though it would make sense for the cap. So it'll be interesting to pay attention to if they do go forward with Jacoby Brissett and just use this as a write-off year, basically, and just wait for Deshaun Watson to be there. Like,
even that's just like, I don't know, man. Like, this could get worse, and you should just throw up you should throw whatever you think might happen with Deshaun Watson out the window at this point. Like, anything is possible.
There's a report that came out today saying that the rest of the owners around the league are pissed off at how they handled the contract, pretty much writing him off as not having him this year. Like, people are angry about this, as they should be. Like, it's not good. I think that Cleveland, like, there's going to be this black cloud following them around all season. Like, it's going to be looming over them. Like, it's undeniable what's happening there. And they can try to ignore it and they can pretend it's not there, but like, it's going to be like staring them down throughout the entirety of 2021. And for, a lot of people saying that they deserve it. And I would agree. Of those people. Yeah. Like,
especially the statements and just the triggered stuff and everything.
Throwing Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry to the wolves, not being there after all that happened. Like, I don't know, man. They're
just not rootable, and I feel bad for a lot of Browns fans who have waited a long time to have a good Browns team
too. Yeah, a talented roster full of genuinely good dudes.
That's the biggest thing is, like, Cleveland fans. There's no winning it because every game that they win with Deshaun Watson will taste bad. Yeah, every single one, and even if they win a Super Bowl, it'll taste bad. If they win a Super Bowl, it'll be collectively the entire world rooting against them.
Right.
And fans will feel dirty. And so that's, to me, like, like, to bring some light into this in the 49ers world that I am, that's why I do see Jimmy Garoppolo as like the only saving grace, not because of that organization.
But if you're Jimmy, do you want to walk into that?
But so this is my point. For a fan base that doesn't deserve this, and for players on that team that don't deserve this, Jimmy, the guy that is nothing but professional, that is always a team first guy, a leader, if he can come in and salvage 1 year to give the fans something to root for and the players something to play for, he comes in, he plays well enough he gets his own contract. I think that's the best case scenario. Do I want the Browns organization to win? No. But if Jimmy were to come in and be this kind of thing that could help the players who don't deserve to play in those circumstances and the fans, like, I think that's a win. I think that gives fans something I think they deserve.
I mean, they brought back Garrett and Clowney. Like, it's just the edge. You look at, like, Jarrett, you talked about it. There's so much talent on this defense, up and down this defense. I have a big question, though, with their receiver room. I like Anthony Schwartz is just a never healthy guy, super speedy, like a good theoretical guy. But like, I look at this receiver room. I don't like this. Is Kareem Hunt wants out. I just think I look at this and I'm like, they are putting so much pressure on Nick Chubb in 2022 that if he has any kind of down year, they're in really, really hot water, right? Like when you look at this, they're counting on like David Bell to help them right out of the gate. Like this is suddenly a huge weakness. Like Amari Cooper is not the Amari Cooper of old. And I think Browns fans are going to see that this year. Like I don't like, they have, I think one of the worst, we talk about the Ravens wide receiver room. I think the Browns have a pretty bad one at this point. Now, and at the very least, a very unproven one with Peoples-Jones and Bell and company. Like, if I'm a Browns fan, I wouldn't even felt good if Watson's playing with this group, right?
Yeah, I mean, behind Amari Cooper, it's very, very,
but also,
very thin.
I mean, having Amari Cooper and Nick Chubb is something. That is definitely something.
Yeah, like I would take
a lot of teams don't have that
over, Rashad Bateman and J.K. Dobbins.
Exactly. So it's definitely not.
I think it's closer than people might think, though. Yeah. JK is going to be a good player. I think he's going to be really good this year. If he's healthy, JK.
He's fine.
I think J.K. Dobbins will be exactly what he normally is. And I think it's a little bit of who's that receiver with everyone's breakout receiver this year that they're like, oh, he's really going to
Kyle Pitts.
No, dog.
Drake London. Brian Edwards.
No, he's like a third string. He's like a third string receiver. I can't even think of it right now.
Kadarius Toney?
No, he was. I mean, that guy got drafted the first round. It was like once again, it was like a third string receiver for. I can't even think. It was like an East Coast team.
I'm not sure.
I don't know why. It was like their sneaky breakout. Blah blah blah. I'm like J.K. Dobbins is that.
Gabe Davis.
I think it was Gabriel Davis. Yeah. It was him. Good call.
There we go.
But you know what I'm saying? Like Gabriel Davis and J.K. Dobbins are the same thing. There's a bunch of people that are like, what? No, and they're going to do really just about what they did last
year. Jarrett, we'll end on this. We're going to go 1 through 4, then we'll hop off here. So how do you see the AFC North ultimately finishing this year?
Bengals winning it 11-6. Ravens as the final wild card spot 9-8. Steelers 9-8. Cleveland 8-9, 7-10. I'm kind of in the middle on that. I think I gave them like one extra win just because, just assuming Deshaun will be back after 6. This is before the appeal happened. So
yeah,
I had Browns 8-9. So competitive division, Bengals winning it, Ravens being a playoff team as a 7 seed.
Okay. What about you, Evan?
I mean, I think the Bengals have a legitimate shot at winning 13 games this year. Their schedule's tough, so I will say somewhere in the 11 to 13 range. They can do some damage. I would say from there, the Ravens are interesting, right? Because we've seen them win a lot of games. We've seen, but I'm going to say closer to maybe like that 11 range. The Steelers, if they go over 500, I'm going to be very surprised, but I'll say 8 wins. The Browns, it's impossible. Anyone wants to suggest they have an idea of how many wins the Browns they're out of their mind. It's a million variables. Who's the quarterback?
Right.
Who knows? I would say the Browns could win anywhere from like 5 wins to like maybe like 9 or 10 if there's someone like Jimmy Garoppolo. But even then it's hard because he's coming in late. I think realistically you're looking at like 6 to 7 wins. It's going to be a tough season all around for that team.
We're pretty close. Like I will say mine is I'm saying Ravens 1. I think the Ravens go 11-6. I think Ravens win the division. Bengals right behind them at 10-7. I got Steelers at 9-8. And then I got the Browns at 4-13. I think the Browns are awful. I think they lose a bunch of football games. I think Deshaun Watson doesn't play the whole year. And I think
it is the most annoying thing though, if like it comes out that, okay, Deshaun is suspended indefinitely. Like he doesn't necessarily get to come back next year. The Browns just like fall into like Bryce Young or somebody, and he turns out to be good.
Do they have their first round pick next year?
Oh, maybe not. Yeah, I don't know why I said that.
By the way, what do you do in that situation if you have the number? Let's say you have.
Yeah, that would be a headache in itself, wouldn't it?
You just have to trade that for multiple first round picks, I guess.
No, you're taking the quarterback with the uncertainty at that point. If you're at that point, like no, you're.
What if Deshaun Watson gets 6 games?
I don't think that's happening. I think that's out the door.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's complicated. But again, guess what? Cleveland, you did this to yourself. Like, that is ultimately what happened here. You did this to yourself. So I don't feel bad. I feel bad for the fans. I don't feel bad for the organization. But they did send their first round pick in 2023 to the Texans in that. So they don't even have it. Sure. Jarrett, what can the good folks check out from you? Podcast front, writing front, everything this week?
Oh, yeah. Stuff on 33rd Team. Interviews coming for Sports Illustrated, USA Today. All that will be tweeted out. At Jay Bailey, NFL is where you can follow me on Twitter. Pump Fake Pod will come later this week too. No notes, trying to get that all set up. Once football season comes in, that kind of takes a little bit of a backseat, but trying to do some stuff with no notes too. So follow all that at Jay Bailey NFL on Twitter.
There you go. Evan, what about you, man?
Well, tonight, so long past when this comes out, I'll be on the game 95.7 game, the game over in San Francisco.
Yes, sir.
Which is dope. I love doing radio. But no, I just found out that the 49ers Hub website didn't get whatever, and the domain got stolen.
No.
What?
Yeah, which I don't really care because people are only clicking from Twitter anyways. But so we're working on doing a full refresh, new logo, new everything. But so yeah, follow the 49ers Hub on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter at Evan Sowards. Got the OG account back. Shout out to Jarrett and his millions of projects that he's working on. And same with Chase, never not working. Congratulations to both you guys.
We grind hard. We respect it. We're all grinding. Evan, good luck on the radio tonight. Don't say boner. I don't think you're allowed to say that on the.
Yeah, maybe. Boner. Yeah, don't say boner on 95.7.
All right, 95.7, the boner.
That's perfect.
Evan, Jarrett, thank you as always. I will talk to y'all very soon.
Take care, guys.